Inside the patient's room, Gina bursts into tears upon seeing her mother awake after years of being trapped in eternal sleep. Overcome with relief and joy, she rushes forward, embracing her mother tightly. In the corner, Jinwoo watches silently, reflecting on how all his struggles have finally paid off. Though a sense of fulfillment washes over him, an uneasy thought lingers. His path as a hunter has taken him to a point of no return. Outside the hospital, Jinwoo sits on a bench, scrolling through his phone. He stumbles upon a news article about a mysterious dragon-like shadow figure spotted in the sky. Realizing it was Kaizel, his shadow dragon, he finds the situation concerning. Just then, his phone rings. It's Chairman Go-Gun-hee. Jinwoo assumes the call is about the shadow sighting, but Go-Gun-hee, sounding perplexed, says, "It seems you really haven't heard the news." After a brief pause, he adds, "Would it be all right if I told you in person? I'll stop by today." Jinwoo interrupts, "No, I'll come to you." Upon arriving at the Hunter Association building, Jinwoo meets with Go-Gun-hee, who informs him of an upcoming mission. He stresses the significance of the mission, adding, "To make this happen, we need your help, Mr. Sung. Retaking Jeju Island has been a dream for every citizen of Korea." Jinwoo considers the request, realizing that he had been searching for a high-level hunting ground to gain experience and level up. However, before he can give an answer, his thoughts are suddenly interrupted by an overwhelming surge of mana waves nearby. Jinwoo senses a powerful surge of mana waves nearby. Noticing his reaction, Go-Gun-hee asks, "Is something wrong?" Jinwoo replies calmly, "It seems like some hunters are fighting nearby." Go-Gun-hee chuckles. "As expected, your senses are sharp." He explains that the S-rank hunters are training in the gym, preparing for the Jeju Island raid, which is only 4 days away. He also mentions that Japanese hunters, including Goto Ryuji, the strongest hunter in Japan, are present. The two head to the gym, and the scene shifts to Baek Yunho charging at Ma Dongwook, who counters with healing abilities. The focus returns to Jinwoo and Go-Gun-hee. "It's rare to see this many S-rank hunters gathered in one place," Go-Gun-hee remarks, adding that the intense mana waves Jinwoo felt were likely caused by them. Observing the battle, Jinwoo comments, "Looks like Mr. Baek is having a tough time." A familiar voice responds, "Yes. However, if Baek Yunho were to fight at full strength, Ma Dongwook wouldn't be able to keep up." Jinwoo turns to the source of the voice. "Choi Jong-in?" "It's been a while, Mr. Sung," Choi replies with a calm smile. He then explains that Baek Yunho's opponent is Ma Dongwook, the guildmaster of a renowned guild. Curious, Jinwoo asks, "Why is Baek Yunho holding back against such a strong adversary?" Choi Jong-in responds, "He has an audience. Going all out would put him in an awkward situation." He further reveals that Baek Yunho possesses the ability to transform into a beast when serious. So the rumors were true. He really can transform, Jinwoo muses. Shifting the topic, Choi Jong-in points out all the hunters gathered in the gym. The scene expands, revealing the Japanese S-rank hunters, Izawa Ippei, Ishida Mari, Tanaka Kenzo, Hoshino Minoru, Kumamoto Atsushi, Tawataka Nai, Fujishima Tatsumi, Kei, Shimizu Akari, and Goto Ryuji. Inside the gym, the S-rank hunters begin to take notice of Sung Jinwoo. Among them, Goto Ryuji silently observes, thinking, "An assassin-type hunter. Hiding such an enormous presence is impossible. He must be highly skilled." As Goto watches a sparring match between Baek Yunho and Choi Jong-in, Hagawa stands beside him, unimpressed. She comments that only Go-Gun-hee and Cha Hai-in are on par with Japan's S-rank hunters. Park Jong-soo overhears and interjects, "Did you think I couldn't understand your Japanese?" Smirking, he adds, "It was my second language in high school." Hagawa dismisses him. "Who?" His subordinate introduces him as the master of the Knights Guild, one of Korea's top 5. Hagawa, uninterested, shifts the conversation, questioning why an A rank like him is in the Jeju Island raid. The subordinate explains he's in the defense unit, to which she replies, "That's a relief. A crucial role shouldn't be left to a mere A rank." Annoyed, Park Jong-soo retorts, "What would a translator who just follows orders know?" Hagawa, now irritated, challenges him, suggesting he wouldn't stand a chance. He accepts. In the training arena, the rule is simple. Whoever grabs the other's wrist first wins. Hagawa charges at lightning speed, unleashing a flurry of attacks. Park Jong-soo effortlessly dodges, hands in his pockets. Frustrated, she intensifies her strikes, but he calmly deflects her with his foot. Mocking him, she smirks. "Your pants are ripped." Seizing the distraction, she lunges, only to freeze as Park Jong-soo easily catches her wrist. After Hagawa and Park Jong-soo's match, Goto Ryuji proposes a duel between Korea's and Japan's S-rank hunters. Gohi suggests excluding mage class and non-combatant hunters, while Jinwoo sets the rules. Victory comes by touching an opponent's back or knocking them down. Instead of simple one-on-one fights, the duel becomes a strategic team battle. Goto agrees, believing wrist grabs would favor assassins. As tensions rise, Ma Dong-wook showcases his gigantification, while Tanaka Kenzo and Minoru engage, with Lim Tai-gyu countering from a distance using magic arrows. Gohi notes the reinforced facility struggling against the hunter's power. Atsushi Sawada tries to ambush Jinwoo, but Beck dodges instinctively. He then attacks Kumamoto, turning it into a chaotic 1v3 fight. Meanwhile, Cha Hai-in faces an S-rank opponent. Her agility earns her the nickname the Dancer, as she evades and lands precise counters. Kanai tries to retaliate, but Cha's speed allows her to secure victory. As she moves to assist Beck, Kumamoto attacks, but she overwhelms him with a flurry of strikes. Kumamoto's rage builds, alarming his teammates. He gains the upper hand against Cha and nearly lands a fatal blow, until Jinwoo suddenly appears, intercepting and effortlessly defeating him. Stunned, Goto Ryuji questions whether Jinwoo is truly a mage-type hunter. After Jinwoo stops Kumamoto from further attacking Cha Hai-in, he turns to her and says, "Hunter Cha, it's probably best that we admit the Korean team has lost this competition." Cha, understanding the situation, simply responds, "Yes," since Jinwoo has also been caught and is unable to continue. Meanwhile, Goto Ryuji approaches Jinwoo and challenges him to a one-on-one duel. Jinwoo, sensing Goto's desire to test his strength, gives a slight smirk. He thinks to himself that this is the perfect chance to assess his own abilities after the intense battles in the Demon Castle. Goto, irritated by Jinwoo's smirk, thinks, "How dare he smile in front of me?" Hagawa, acting as the translator, tells Goto that Jinwoo will only accept the fight if Goto uses his full strength. This infuriates Goto, who wonders if Jinwoo is truly underestimating him. In a calm yet mocking tone, Goto says, "Sumizu, an S-rank healer, is here, so don't worry about injuries. Nothing serious will happen." Then, pointing at Jinwoo, he adds, "Make sure she heals you after this." The atmosphere becomes charged as all the S-rank hunters gather to watch the upcoming duel. Meanwhile, Cha Hai-in and Jinwoo have a quiet conversation on the sidelines. "You said you were an acquaintance of Mr. Sung, correct?" Cha says, her concern clear. Beck nods and answers, "Yeah." "Then why don't you try to stop him?" Cha asks, her worry growing. Beck glances at Jinwoo and Goto, who are preparing for their fight, and responds, "What you're saying makes sense. It's a natural reaction." Still curious, Cha presses further. "Then why?" Beck pauses for a moment, then admits, "I feel oddly excited about this match." In his thoughts, he reflects, if my assumption is right, Jinwoo might just be stronger than Goto Ryuji. Hagawa relays to Goto that Jin accepts the challenge, but only if he goes all out. Goto agrees, pointing out that they have an S-rank healer on standby, then orders Shimizu to tend to the wounded, adding, including him who will be needing your assistance in a few minutes, while gesturing at Jin. Jin lowers his head and says, "Let's begin." But before he can finish, Goto lunges, wind slicing through the air as Jin evades, irritating the Japanese hunter. Goto smirks, declaring that Jin can't deceive him forever. He will expose all his secrets. He attacks relentlessly, but Jin effortlessly sidesteps each strike, smiling, further infuriating Goto. Realizing that holding back could cost him the match, Goto decides to go for the kill. The Shadow Monarch gets a shallow cut on his cheek just as the system warns him of an overwhelming bloodlust nearby. In that instant, Jin catches Goto's wrist, thinking that if he toys with him too much, he might trigger an emergency quest to eliminate him. Goto snarls, "Do you think you can mock me?" Jin calmly replies, "Not sure what you mean, but the fight would end if I just held your wrist. Even you wouldn't want it to end like that, right?" They both prepare to strike again, but before they can, Chae-in and Baek Yunho grab Jin, while Minoru intervenes and Kei erects an ice barrier between them. They remind Jin that Goto is set to lead the Japanese hunters in a few days, and if he gets injured here, it'll be Korea's responsibility. With that, the sparring session concludes for the day. Jinwoo acknowledges that he may have gone too far, but he also realizes that even these top hunters failed to notice the shadow soldiers lurking beneath them. He then turns to Gohi to inquire about the upcoming Jeju raid, while Hanakawa calls out to a stunned Goto. Baek Yunho reflects on the immense potential of a hunter like Jinwoo, someone who continues to grow stronger without limits. Realizing that trying to recruit him would be futile, he shifts to Plan B. Just then, he receives a notification about the participation list for the upcoming Jeju Island raid and is stunned to see that Sung Jinwoo's name is missing. Meanwhile, Goto Ryuji is on a call with Reiji Sugimoto, the S-rank vice master of Japan's Draw Sword Guild, mentioning a highly skilled hunter from South Korea. Sugimoto chuckles and remarks, "Ha, but surely not as strong as you, Mr. Goto." However, Goto replies, "Well, I'm not so sure about that." Curious, Sugimoto asks for the hunter's name just as he receives the updated list of South Korea's raid participants. The names include Choi Jong-in, Ma Dong-wook, Baek Yunho, Chae-in, Lim Tae-gyu, and the S-rank healer Min Byung-gu. This catches Goto off guard, and he notes that unless Chairman Gohi has lost his mind, there's no way he would form the raid without Jinwoo. Over on Jeju Island, the Queen Ant senses that her colony has begun consuming each other due to a lack of food. She declares that they must leave the island. Addressing an unhatched egg, she states that they require the ultimate warrior, one who will lead their empire and instill fear in their enemies. At that moment, the egg hatches, and the newborn ant lets out a piercing screech, radiating an overwhelming aura. Jinwoo, his mother, and his sister, Jin-ah, return to their apartment, where Jinwoo is displeased to find the mess his sister left behind while he was away. Their mother, who hasn't done housework in 4 years, jokingly asks if they would like to help, and together they start cleaning. As they tidy up, Jinwoo's mother asks if he has heard any updates about his father while she was unconscious. Jinwoo replies that he has not, and it becomes clear that she refuses to move out of their old apartment because she still holds on to the hope that Jinwoo's missing father will eventually find his way home. Later, while taking a stroll, Jinwoo receives a call from Jinho, who invites him to check out the office he secured for their guild. Jinho insists that an office is necessary if they are serious about forming a guild, but Jinwoo thinks the space is too large for just the two of them. Jinho explains that they need room for the guildmaster, vice-guildmaster, and future recruits. Suddenly, Jinho remembers that a foreigner speaking English was looking for Jinwoo and hands him a note, stating that the person will be in South Korea until July 17th. At that moment, Jinwoo senses something unusual and tells Jinho to hold on. Using Shadow Exchange, he instantly teleports to a scene where a man is threatening a young girl's life. The man smirks and comments on how much he enjoys the neighborhood, to which Jinwoo casually responds that he does too. When Jinwoo questions the man's motives, he grins and claims he does it simply for fun before lunging at Jinwoo with a knife. However, the weapon fails to pierce Jinwoo's skin, and the murderer's confidence quickly turns to fear. Jinwoo smirks, recognizing the feeling of dominance, before effortlessly taking the knife, slashing the man, and binding his shadow to a high orc. He then gives the man an ultimatum: turn himself in by midnight or die. With that business handled, Jinwoo shifts his focus to the looming Jeju raid. A helicopter soars toward Jeju Island, and Goto Ryuji shudders, questioning whether the ominous sensation creeping over him is death itself. Meanwhile, battleships encircle the island's shores as hunters stand ready aboard. Among them are Ma Dong-wook of the Fame Guild and Lim Tae-gyu of the Reapers Guild. Tae-gyu, clearly frustrated, shouts into his phone, furious that his celebrity A-rank hunter has been placed in a precarious position. It is soon revealed that hunters from various guilds have been stationed along the southern coast of Korea to intercept any surviving ants that might escape to the mainland if the raid succeeds. Each defense unit is commanded by a B-rank hunter, backed by 3 C-rank hunters and over 10 D-rank hunters, including retired hunters and those whose reawakenings had failed. As the team approaches the island, a cameraman introduces himself, announcing that the entire raid will be broadcast live on television for the world to see. Baek Yoon-ho questions the chairman's decision to send a cameraman into such a perilous situation, but Dong-wook insists that protecting people is their duty as hunters. However, he warns Mr. Cameraman that his survival is ultimately in his own hands. Mr. Cameraman remains unfazed, assuring them there's no need for concern. After all, he is still an A-rank hunter, and hunting is merely his side job. He adds that he has ventured into dangerous places before, though none as treacherous as where they are heading now. Hong-wook reassures the part-time hunter that the chairman would never have permitted him to join if he wasn't confident in the operation's success. He further emphasizes that this is a once-in-a-lifetime event, the first and last time ordinary people will witness an S-rank raid unfold. Moreover, after 3 consecutive failures, the public is hungry for vengeance against the Jeju Island ants. At that moment, Baek Yoon-ho turns to Min Byung-gyu, expressing surprise at his presence. The healer responds that if he hadn't come, Baek would have been the first to die. Hunter Cha Hai-in then asks Baek if he has heard from Sung Jinwoo, to which he simply replies, no. Just then, Dong-wook speaks up, signaling that it's time. Goto and his team arrive at the upper district of Jeju Island, speculating that the ants have begun devouring each other. The eerie silence of the ruined city only adds to their unease. At this moment, all teams, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta, check in, confirming their positions. Without hesitation, Goto issues the command to open the floodgates. In an instant, a surge of magical energy erupts from the hunters, provoking the ants into action. The volcanic nest trembles as swarms of ants pour out, their sheer numbers overwhelming. They charge toward both the hunters on the ground and the Korean team's helicopter hovering above. The sky darkens with their rapid movement, the buzzing of their wings reverberating across the battlefield. Choi Jong-in steps forward, unfazed by the approaching horde. "I'll take care of this," he says calmly before activating his skill, Flame Spear. A blazing projectile shoots through the air, engulfing dozens of ants in a fiery explosion. Min Byung-gu, watching from the helicopter, exclaims, "Impressive!" But Choi remains indifferent. "Not really," he replies. "This much firepower isn't enough to take them down." Without wasting another second, he conjures an even greater fireball, unleashing it upon the swarm. The flames consume the insects, but Choi quickly realizes something troubling. "They've evolved quite a bit since last time," he mutters. "Their resistance is on par with creatures from A-rank dungeons. I need to focus more on my flames." his eyes narrow as he prepares to test their newfound strength. Choi rides his own flames down to the battlefield, captivating the ants with his overwhelming power. As he lands among them, a nostalgic thought crosses his mind. "It's been a while since I played with ants like this," he muses. "When I was a kid, I used to burn them with a lighter. Back then, they made little popping noises. Now, all I hear are explosions." Looking up, Choi signals to the other hunters. It's safe to come down now. But before they can move, Ma Dong-wook voices his concern. This plan could end up like the last 3 attempts, with no escape route. His warning hangs heavy in the air. But this time, there's an added urgency. The Japanese hunters reveal that they can only hold the ants' attention for an hour at most. Within that window, the Korean team must locate and eliminate the queen. Meanwhile, back on one of the battleships, Sugimoto activates electric jamming waves, disrupting the ants' ability to communicate with their queen. As the signal interference takes effect, Bravo team engages a group of ants. Kanai turns to Kumamoto, irritated by his nervousness. "Stop acting so alarmed before you get yourself killed," she snaps. At the same time, Team Charlie's Zakari observes the battlefield and smirks. "At this rate, we might kill all the ants before the Korean team even reaches the queen." Tatsumi, however, notices something off. "Where's Kenzo?" The answer is unsettling. Kenzo is off on his own, playing with the ants in his own twisted way, ripping the wings off the ones capable of flight. Elsewhere, Team Delta's K freezes several ants with his abilities before noticing something unusual. He gestures toward the entrance of the ant tunnel. "What's with the fireworks over there?" IPA glances at the burning spectacle and chuckles. "Probably Choi Jong-in's doing." Choi Jong-in conjures a blazing net over the entrance of the ant tunnel, explaining that his flame prison is primarily used to restrain enemies. However, he believes that ants ranked below B shouldn't be able to scale the fiery barricade. He then announces that he will search for the entrance, summoning dozens of fireballs and launching them into every opening. Hunter Beck questions his actions, prompting the fire mage to clarify that the tunnels are like a labyrinth. Without proper caution, they could easily get lost. Assuming that the queen resides in a location where an explosion wouldn't be able to reach her, they proceed forward. Meanwhile, back in the city, Jin completes his 10-kilometer run and notices an unusual silence, quickly deducing that the Jeju Island raid has begun. Confident that the hunters are more than capable of handling the situation, he sees no reason to observe the battle himself. On the island, the Korean team is taken aback when they encounter ants with eyes specially adapted to navigating the pitch-black tunnels. Byung-gu turns to Baek, asking if he truly believes the queen is present, pointing out that history has seen many kings abandon their people to escape. Beck, however, dismisses the notion, stating that these are merely ants. They wouldn't possess such a level of intelligence. As they advance deeper into the tunnels, Choi gasps upon spotting an enormous number of eggs scattered throughout the chamber. Declaring that he will incinerate them all, he prepares to unleash his flames. But before he can act, Hunter Cha urgently calls out for him to stop, pointing to a single, unusually large egg among the others. Byung-gu, observing the strange egg, asserts that it's impossible for it to belong to an ant and questions what exactly they are dealing with. At that moment, Baek places a reassuring hand on the healer's shoulder, advising him to focus solely on eliminating the queen and to set aside any distractions. However, internally, Baek acknowledges Byung-gu's unease, silently admitting that the sight is indeed troubling. Team Charlie continues exterminating the ants. Akari teases Kenzo, commenting on his ragged appearance. Kenzo, irritated, responds that the ants were relentless, attacking in well-coordinated formations. He also mentions that he sustained injuries to his shoulder and hip. Akari offers to heal him, but only on one condition. Kenzo, accustomed to her antics, tells her to stop joking and demands to know what she wants. Akari laughs, revealing that this time it's not about money. Kenzo, puzzled, reminds her that she's wealthier than him anyway. Before their exchange can continue, Kenzo suddenly spots approaching ants and tells Akari to stop messing around. However, before she can reply, her head is instantly severed from her body, leaving the two remaining Japanese hunters in shock. Realizing the threat, Kenzo shouts a warning, urging everyone to stay alert. The unseen assailant closes in, and before Kenzo can react, he too is decapitated. Tatsumi, horrified, lets out a battle cry before charging at the enemy with his sword, only to meet the same gruesome fate. With 3 elite Japanese S-rank hunters slain in an instant, the Jeju Island raid takes a grim turn, as the remaining hunters remain unaware of the true terror lurking in the shadows. Jong faces off against a royal guard. Each of these elite ants is powerful enough to challenge even S-rank hunters. However, a beast is still a beast, and compared to hunters who utilize a variety of ranged attacks, these ants seem sluggish in comparison. Dong-wook calls out to Hunter Cha, who swiftly drives her sword through the ant's skull before slicing through its massive body. Another royal guard lunges at her, but she effortlessly cleaves its head in half before tearing its body apart. She remarks that these creatures are more resilient than she initially expected. Dong-wook acknowledges that the royal guards are far superior to ordinary ants, but is relieved that their numbers are limited. Byung-gu reassures the squad that he has their backs. Baek Yun-ho smirks, commenting, "Guess you're not a pushover after all." The healer remains composed, advising the clawed hunter to stop making careless mistakes as he crushes an ant's body. He explains that even after being decapitated, ants can survive for up to 10 minutes, so their limbs must be destroyed as well. Beck observes that they haven't even reached the Queen's chamber yet, and are already encountering royal guards, concluding that these ants likely belong to a previous generation. He theorizes that the first generation of royal guards was demoted, meaning they will soon be up against even stronger second-generation ants and beyond. Byung-gu agrees and reinforces the team with buffs, explaining that they not only enhance the hunter's physical condition, but also enable them to battle multiple enemies at once. One of the hunters asks if that means they should each take on 10 ants at a time. The S-rank healer joins the conversation, stating that his combat ability is on par with an A-rank hunter, and if any enemies remain, he can finish them off. However, Baek dismisses the suggestion, asserting that the buffs are sufficient and that Byung-gu should focus on providing support from the rear. Team Delta advances toward Team Charlie's location. Upon arrival, they stumble upon Fujishima's shattered, blood-stained glasses before discovering his headless corpse. The gruesome sight causes K to gag, and he hurriedly pulls off his mask before vomiting. He questions the revolting stench in the air, saying he's never encountered anything like it before. Kay glances toward the woods, suddenly panicking and launching a barrage of ice in that direction, seemingly freezing the entire forest. However, as he peers through the frozen landscape, something slashes him in an instant, leaving behind nothing but bloodied ice shards. Back in the ant tunnels, the Korean team successfully clears another chamber. Baek silently acknowledges Cha Hai-in's overwhelming strength, noting that she has slain twice as many ants as he has in such a short time. Dong-wook estimates that they have about 30 minutes remaining, and Cha pinpoints the queen ant and her guards by scent. Baek volunteers to scout ahead, activating his Eyes of the Beast skill to survey the cave and locate the queen along with her 8 remaining guards. Dong-wook formulates a strategy to keep the queen occupied while entrusting Cha with the guards. The ultimate soldier then unleashes his Celestial Fire Dragon skill, reducing any ants in his path to ash as he declares that saving mana would be a waste. Suddenly, an ant appears behind him, but Taegu swiftly takes it down with a precise shot, announcing his support from the rear. The beastly hunter agrees with Choi, saying there's no reason to hold back. He then shifts into his monstrous form, tearing through the swarm and annihilating everything in his path. The battle rages on as Dong-wook yells, "I'll leave them to you!" Hunter Cha swiftly drives her sword into the ground, activating her skill, Provoking Quake. A powerful tremor shakes the battlefield, slowing the advancing ants and buying valuable time for the S-rank tanker to reach the Queen. Meanwhile, the cameraman stands frozen in shock as voices over the radio announce that viewership has surged by 80%. Urged to get closer, he hesitates as Byung-gu forcefully pulls him back, cautioning that an S-rank boss lurks here, and no one can guarantee his safety. Back home, spectators across South Korea watch the raid with growing anticipation. Their nation stands on the brink of making history, possibly joining the elite group of countries that have successfully conquered an S-rank gate. Meanwhile, Dong-wook takes command, instructing Baek to leap onto him so he can tear into the Queen's legs. From the rear, Tae-gyu launches precise shots, striking the Ant Queen's face. Enraged, the Queen spews acid, burning the hunters, but before it can cause critical harm, Byung-gu quickly heals them, taunting, "If you wanted to defeat us, you should have aimed that attack at me." The Queen lunges forward, attempting to sink her teeth into the healer, but Dong-wook reacts in time, barely intercepting her massive jaws. "I won't let you take down our healer that easily," he declares. At that moment, the ultimate soldier commands everyone to retreat. He engulfs the Queen in roaring flames, then detonates them in a devastating explosion. For a brief moment, victory seems within reach. However, before the hunters can celebrate, the Queen releases an ear-piercing screech. A wave of unease washes over the hunters as they try to comprehend what just happened. Elsewhere, Sugimoto informs Goto that their noise-jamming technology has stopped working. The ants are now swarming back toward the tunnel. Goto, perplexed by the sudden change, questions the situation while Hunter Cha swiftly decapitates the Queen, wondering if the battle has finally ended. Tae-gyu then asks whether they have officially become one of the 7 countries to clear an S-rank gate. Yet Baek Yun-ho senses something is wrong. In the next instant, Ma Dong-wook raises the alarm, warning the other hunters that the ants are returning to the tunnel. Confusion spreads as the hunters struggle to make sense of the abrupt shift. That's when Choi realizes his flame barrier has been destroyed. An overwhelming pressure fills the cavern, paralyzing everyone with fear. Suddenly, an ant steps into view and releases a deafening screech, signaling the arrival of a new, terrifying menace. The arrival of the powerful ant overwhelms the hunters with its terrifying presence. Hunter Cha collapses to her knees, unable to withstand the immense pressure. Dong-wook realizes the grave situation, but finds himself frozen as the creature strides past him with ease. The ant halts at the Queen's severed head and lets out an enraged screech. The overwhelming pressure forces the hunters to the ground. Cha struggles to get up when, in an instant, the ant appears behind her, delivering a backhand so powerful that it sends her flying into the wall. Dong-wook calls out for her, but before he can act, the ant nearly teleports in front of him, shattering his shield and breaking his arm with a single strike. Dong-wook attempts to fight back with his other arm, only for the ant to grab it effortlessly and tear it off. The creature then approaches Baek, who tries to retaliate, but the ant simply walks through him, slashing him without hesitation. The ultimate soldier Tae-gyu enters the fray, confident he won't miss his shot, but the beast catches his arrow mid-flight, snapping it in half before backhanding him through his own bow. At this moment, Dong-wook charges at the winged ant, declaring that as long as Byung-gu is alive, they still have a chance. It is revealed that the S-rank healer has a skill called Disguise, allowing him to conceal his presence completely. However, there's a significant downside. He is unable to move while using this skill. The giant hunter throws a punch at the ant, but it dodges effortlessly, grabbing his foot and hurling him across the room like a rag doll. Byung-gu grows anxious as the ant's gaze locks onto him, sending a wave of fear through him as it draws nearer. Hunter Baek screams at Byung-gu to escape, but it's already too late. The ant's arm punches straight through his chest. With the S-rank healer on the brink of death, the one-sided massacre continues to unfold. With the ant's arm still impaled through his chest, Byung-gu desperately urges Baek to escape before the monstrous creature crushes his head. However, driven by rage, Baek launches himself at the beast. The ant reacts instantly, seizing him by the throat and shocking the hunter by speaking in the voice of his fallen comrade. It taunts Baek's weakness, revealing its terrifying ability to absorb power and knowledge from its prey. Then, in a chilling moment, the ant asks, "Who is your king?" But before Baek can respond, the ant senses a powerful presence outside. Declaring its intent to face this new force, it releases Baek and swiftly takes flight out of the tunnel. Disoriented and alarmed, Baek struggles to his feet, realizing the rest of the ants are now swarming toward them. Meanwhile, Alpha Team surveys the area as Ishida notes that communication has been lost with both Charlie and Delta teams. Concerned by the sudden signal failure, Goto contacts Bravo Team. Kanai reports that they are still operational, but can only establish contact with Alpha. When Kanai suggests investigating further, Goto dismisses the idea, instructing them to complete their current mission and regroup. At that moment, Goto's communication device beeps. President Matsumoto is on the line. Off the coast of China, a ship captain discusses Japan's involvement in assisting the Koreans. He speculates that this mission is an attempt to elevate Goto Ryuji to the status of a national-level hunter. His co-captain agrees, pointing out that every national hunter has cleared at least one S rank, yet Goto remains the only exception. The captain, however, doubts the official narrative, suspecting that Japan is merely using this opportunity to boost their public image. Regardless of their motives, he remains unconvinced of Goto's strength, comparing him unfavorably to Liu Zhigang. Back on the island, Goto hesitates before reporting the casualties to Matsumoto, who coldly dismisses the losses, stating that only the strong hold any value. The president then asks if the Korean team is engaging the Queen, to which Goto confirms, adding that an unforeseen disruption in their jamming signals has caused all the ants to retreat into the tunnels. When Matsumoto inquires about the Koreans' chances of survival, Goto replies bluntly, 0%. Without hesitation, Matsumoto orders an immediate withdrawal, revealing the true purpose of the operation, the deliberate abandonment of the South Korean hunters. Goto relays the command to his team, stating they can recover the bodies at a later time. Just then, the ant bursts toward Goto with incredible speed. He reacts, blocking the attack, but in an instant, the creature decapitates Ashita. Recognizing that this ant is on an entirely different level, Goto swiftly orders Minoru to regroup with the others, knowing he would only be a hindrance in this fight. Ryuji, sensing the overwhelming pressure radiating from the creature, watches as the ant turns to Goto and asks, "Are you the king?" Without hesitation, Goto asserts, "Yes, I am the king." But the ant unleashes an ear-splitting screech, exuding an immense aura of power. At that moment, a horrifying realization dawns on Goto. This presence, I've felt it before, he thinks, recalling Jinwoo. Before he can react, his blade fractures, and his head falls. Meanwhile, Choi Jong-in holds off the incoming ants as Baek asks if he can amplify his flames. The ultimate soldier warns that doing so would consume the remaining oxygen they have left. Despite Byung-gu's efforts to minimize the damage, their injuries leave them incapable of continuing the battle. At this point, their only hope lies in Choi's fire. As Baek spots more ants converging from the sides, he wonders if this is where it all ends. But then, from his shadow, a black knight materializes, intercepting the incoming swarm. Elsewhere, Jinwoo watches from the city, uttering a single command: exchange.